10 seconds
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Manila Major Qualifiers. We're going to be taking a
5
look at a
seconds
wonderful
remaining.
match here today. It's going to be iG.Vitality
Dire
facing off
team
against
battle.
FTD.B in the first of the Chinese region. I'm Lyrical Dota, joined by Blaze. Blaze, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you excited about these games? What can you tell us about the teams?
Absolutely excited about this. I mean, this is one of the best regions of the qualifier, and of course, Manila Major
10
preceding
seconds
TI.
remaining.
It just has so much impact on the potential for these teams, both big and small.
5
So, really
seconds
excited to see
remaining.
some of the big names like eHome and Newbie go at it. And of course, we're going to be able to cast some of the underdogs here:
Reserve time.
iG.V, FTD.B. These are teams that have had some success against some of their tougher opponents, but they're still looking to gain notoriety, looking to make it all the way through to the Manila Major. And it all starts here in the group stage. Match number one here in the first day for China. It's going to be really exciting. So for IG and FTDB, we can look over at the draft and already see
Radiant
some
team pick.
fresh new things for 6.78 or 6.87. Now 6.86 all is the patch for all current records for these teams because almost every team in China shuffled within the past
Dire team pick.
month to month and a half. About 5 weeks of time have passed since the roster lock, which pretty much took at least one member of from each team and brought them to a new one to form a new roster to bring a new opportunity to build strategy, rapport,
10
and everything
seconds
else. I'm
remaining.
really excited to see what these teams can do with the new patch, with these new faces
5
on these new
seconds
rosters. Now,
remaining.
IGV, I would say, are the favorites going into this one for a variety of reasons, but they have had the
Reserve
most
time.
success against teams of around FTDB's current skill level. Now, of course, if we actually look at back at results, FTDB hasn't played any other team in their group, so they haven't played against IGV, and that means that this matchup is still yet to be decided.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting one for me too. I gotta say that IGV, it feels like
Radiant
it,
team pick.
if you think about the way that this ended up evolving, you had the original IG that ended up somewhat disbanding to some extent, and then they brought up all the old players. And this is a bit of a hodgepodge of people that have come together. Fran in July, all incredibly strong players, and then Super
10
from the old
seconds
IG
remaining.
squad. Now, as far as the draft's concerned, Doom first pick. This is something that's been
5
coming around a
seconds
little bit more
remaining.
often, particularly in 6.86, as you were talking about. In your estimation, though, what
Reserve
do you think
time.
about that sort of the duality of thinking about a Doom in the offlane role versus him as that roaming support? I feel like we see the offlane Doom more often in China nowadays.
Yeah, it varies from team to team. It's actually pretty interesting because about half the teams will always run Doom in the off lane with almost no exception. Maybe one or two games they have a support roaming Doom. The other teams will exclusively run him as a four position support and will not touch an off lane. And I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been a little bit more emphasis on the versatility of the pick because obviously it can succeed in both roles. We've seen it have a massive win rate on some teams like newbies in the off lane,
Hmm.
whereas, of course, across all regions, we've seen at least a marginal success for that four position Doom. So I like the pick as potentially versatile, but right now it's still going to be, I think, IGV with the stronger opener. Obviously, we'll have to see FTD Club B's second pick here, but they're already thinking about it heavily with their reserve time because although they knew that they wanted the Doom in the first pick, now they're up against something that's a whole nother beast. You've got in July Batrider, which is currently 4-1 in the past month of Dota, and then the Vengeful Spirit, of course, that
Enchantress.
is the clearest counter for the hero.
Dire
So
team
they have to
battle.
kind of figure out what they want. The Enchantress is going to be the pick, so they've got a lot of neutral creep abilities to play around with, but we're going to have to see a lot from Pretty Hot in this one. He's going to really have to live up to the expectations of a team that player that came from
10
Fan
seconds
and has been
remaining.
renowned for his jungle performance, and we're going to have to see him really just hit the field running if he's going to be able to take the early game.
Yeah, I completely
Radiant
agree. And you see
team
right here
battle.
also the ban out of the Oracle. Like, that's the obvious other counter, but it would kind of like they were baiting them into taking it
Of
because
course.
we've seen the way in which Oracle can have a really strong impact in that early game and ends up falling off a little bit later just because it doesn't quite do enough in terms of the team fight
10
abilities. It's
seconds
great defensive
remaining.
support and that's wonderful and all, but if you don't have the sort of the roaming
5
support
seconds
potential that we've been
remaining.
seeing is so predominant and necessary in these games recently,
Reserve
then
time.
it's just not going to end up working out. So Enchantress fills the bill. I guess then, do you start thinking about ways to try and burst the Batrider
Dire
as
team
he's
battle.
jumping in, or what? What do you feel like is the way to deal with this hero if you don't get that Vengeful Spirit as your pick?
I still like the idea of going for something like a Yule Scepter on an intelligence-based core, because that gives the opportunity where until the Batrider has Blink, Force, and BKB, he's not
10
as big of a
seconds
threat.
remaining.
While he still can make sure that the lasso is secure and locks down the target,
5
he's not going to be
seconds
pulling them
remaining.
completely out of position thanks to something like a Yule's. Even an Atos can help in that capacity. So you
Reserve
really,
time.
the two big aspects of the lasso are of a BKB piercing disable, but also something that can completely alter position. So you can either do one of two things. You can have all tanky cores that don't really care if they're thrown into the thick of things, think
Radiant
Viper and
taking
Doom,
back.
or you can go for something that disables the Batrider and makes that initiation. Think Nyx Assassin with a Spike Carapace whenever Firefly is
Yeah, that's
active,
so good.
and of course the Yule Scepter I was referencing. So I think that they have to be able to respond. They have to be in the right position and know where the Batrider is
10
moving, because
seconds remaining.
vision is a very key game to be playing up against the Batrider, and then of
5
course
seconds
some kind of
remaining.
thing to hold them in place. So that's why Night Stalker is very strong. You have the darkness in play. Just
Reserve
something that
time.
will make it so the Batrider has a harder time finding his target, and you have an easier time counter initiating.
Yeah, I really like this. I think the other thing that feels so strong about all of the stuff that you got going here, you're looking like for iG.V, they're trying to find a way to pull somebody out of the fray and just sort of burst them down pretty
Dire
quickly.
team
They
pick.
take the puck out of the pool, one of those mid lane heroes that can cause a ton of problems, and they're actually going to go back for the gyrocopter now. So a
Radiant
decent chunk
team
of that
pick.
burst damage. You got the call down in there to be able to set up a great team fight if you're going to be able to pull somebody out of position, either with the Batwire and the Venge, and it just feels very strong. So this is kind of an interesting one too. FTD.B, one of the few teams that's going to sort of consistently run that Undyne. It was one of their
10
signature
seconds
picks.
remaining.
I'm a little surprised they ended up banning it out, to be honest, because not too many other
5
teams
seconds
are running
remaining.
that hero. It gives you a tremendous amount of ability to like fight early on, and
Reserve
in
time.
some ways it's good, but I don't know. Let's see, what else are we going to end up seeing now as the third pick for FTD.B? Is there anything that you feel like you're going to need at this point in time? Is there anything in particular that you think is going to help out their draft here?
Well, right now they definitely need to not only make sure that they have early game emphasis, which they kind of have decently with the Doom Enchantress, but they also need to be able to win and snowball. The Queen of Pain is a decent pick for this because he's going to be able to, without having to worry about a puck, get the early CS advantage and have the burst damage they need to take down core targets very quickly. If they can kind of just get a kill advantage very early on, and the Batrider
10
is slowed
seconds
down,
remaining.
then you're going to be able to see nice progression towards the mid game where the Gyrocopter is constantly
5
looking for that next
seconds
item. Sure, he
remaining.
can get a BKB to fight, but you've still got Sonic Wave, Impetus, and Doom that all pierce right through it. So I think this
Reserve
emphasis
time.
on pure damage and magic immunity piercing abilities, as well as kind of some way to nuke and snowball, is really going to be favoring FTD.B in the early game here. So Rand's doing a really good job in that department in terms of drafting, but they're still looking for, obviously, their scalability towards the late game. You can't put all your eggs in just one basket.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Right now for iG.V, okay, well they're gonna go for the DP. That was something I was kind of curious about because they had like all this ability to fight, get early kills, pick off that type of thing, but they didn't have that ability to push too. And now with the gyrocopter, you sort of ensure your ability to scale well into the late game. I always worry a little bit about gyrocopter if you don't have some type of steroid to burst him up and make sure that his damage that he can kind of
Dire
fall off.
team
But that
back.
DP is sort of that fallback mechanism, the exorcism, being able to deal out that physical damage. It can sometimes make up for the lack of physical damage that the gyrocopter gives you. And even though he got nerfed, people are still picking him. The hero still seems pretty good, Blaze. What are your
10
thoughts on him after
seconds
the nerf?
remaining.
I'm actually going to be really interested in who is going to be playing this Earth Spirit here
5
because
seconds
the
remaining.
records that FTD.B have been listing since their roster reformation don't include anything in terms of
Reserve
Earth Spirit,
time.
and one major factor for that I would say is their instability in terms of the supports that they pick up. With FTD.B,
Radiant
they
team
have
back.
been running through 3 different supports players in the past month to about 5 weeks. Actually, roster locked on a player they only played 12 matches with, and then eventually I don't know if he got kicked, but he's stood in for other teams and he hasn't played with them since. So what they ended up
10
having to do
seconds
is
remaining.
fall back on their 6th person who was on their roster, which is
5
essentially their
seconds
coach,
remaining.
Ping. So Ping hasn't played competitively in 5 months' time,
Radiant
but as
team
such, we
pick.
really don't know his potential experience with a hero like Earth Spirit because this hero is relatively new to the captain's mode pool.
Dire
5-6
team
months
pick.
ago, it wasn't even available, and now Ping is kind of filling in and into the slot that was and the void that remained when they decided to go a different direction with their team. So it's going to be pretty interesting as far as the Enchantress, the Earth Spirit, and the Doom, which ones are actually going to be the support, which one takes farm priority over the other, because all of them are classified as 4-position supports, and of course, which individual player is going to apply their skill set to make things happen on the map.
So this is something that I love. It's a bold strategy here right now from FTD.B. You've got two really incredibly strong lane heroes. You got that Queen of Pain, you got the Viper. They're not going to require a ton of help. And then they've also picked up 2 roaming supports and a Doom. I don't know exactly the full ability of Doom to sustain in that lane, but I'm kind of wondering, what do you think about potentially running like an aggro try here with the Doom, or are we just going to be seeing those other 2 roam around and try and find kills in their lanes?
I think the Lich completely shuts that down. The early
God,
sacrifice
you're right.
is going to really inhibit any terms of experience progression towards at least one lane. So if you try lane that lane, you're losing 40% of the every other wave due to sacrifice. Then suddenly there's no way, even through jungling, that you can make up for that experience deficit. The gyrocopter is going to outlevel you, and he's going to be able to do too much damage for you to actually get good trades on him. So I really feel confident in the iG.Vitality lineup here. The Lich should help out in a lot of ways, but one thing I will mention is that one of the big benefits of Lich is the armor. The ice armor boosting up the effective HP of a hero. And that's really not going to come into play here. You've got Viper's Nether Toxin as the only real physical damage coming out. Otherwise, it's all magical and pure, and it's something that Gyrocopter just needs raw HP for. So the Ice Armor is going to be kind of lackluster, but the Sacrifice should still help the laning phase immensely here for Super. We are playing on 6.87B, so it is going to be a nerfed Sacrifice, but we are still going to be able to see a very effective movement here for iG.V in the early game to try to counteract the FTD.B snowball aggression.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Manila Major Qualifiers Chinese region. We're going to be taking a look at this matchup here. I got to say, I do feel like if FTD.B, if they start to fall behind early, this seems like a really scary draft to try and fight against. Like, you've got incredible team fight ultimates that are coming out from iG.V, and then on the side of FTD.B, it's like, it just feels like they want to try and snowball. Is there any draft that you feel like has an ease of execution at the start of this, or somebody that you're favoring? We know we talked about iG.V feeling like they were the favorites coming into it, but seeing the draft, does that change your opinion at all?
Well, it is going to be pretty interesting to see Fran and how, or seeing Rand and how he's going to be running this Doom here, because Rand is their offlane. He's going to be getting more early experience on the Doom. He's going to have to dip into the jungle a little bit because, let's face it, Venge, Gyro, and Lich is a hard laning composition to deal with, even if the Lich moves away from the lane. So I feel like the Doom is going to be stifled a little bit, but still going to have that strong power spike at level 6. So all this in consideration, I feel like cooldown to cooldown, FTD.B can take the fight to iG.V repeatedly. Every single time they have Doom or Sonic Wave up, they should be looking for fights. And this is really good because a 5-man strategy nullifies to some extent the strength of the Batrider pick early on. So I think that FTD.B can really take the early fighting phase, but their only scaling is maybe through the Enchantress. Another Toxin and the Viper in general can scale to an okay extent, but it's definitely nothing compared to the Gyrocopter and DP.
Oh, you see right there as well down here in the bottom lane. Ping did get spotted out as Earth Spirit rolling over the side, and this might signal to them that they're going to be able to find the ward. We've seen that Lich is going to drop one of his own, and is actually not going to move back that direction, so maybe he didn't spot it out. We will see in just a second. Super sneaking away through that jungle, and as this game gets going, I do kind of feel like, you know, how this laning stage goes is probably going to determine a lot of how well they're going to be able to deal with this. He rolls through, clears out the jungle, and what do you think of that early Blightstone pickup for him? Normally you see the Orb of Venom.
Yeah, it's actually quite surprising here. I definitely think that the mentality here for Ping is that he is going to be helping out heroes like Queen of Pain and Viper in the gank, so they've already got a slow effect in play between either the Viper or the Poison Attack or the Shadow Strike. So I do feel like there is some strict value in just going for extra damage output during the point where you're still already slowing them down. Between Rolling Boulders, Massive Slow, and the hits of the cores, I think that you can still pretty much guarantee that kill if they're out of position in the first place. I think the Blightstone is a nice point of progression, but I'm curious, does he go Medallion with that? I mean, you kind of don't just want this item for the one slot casual pickup.
Yeah, it is seeming a little bit weird. Desolator not the most common pickup on the side of the Earth Spirit, but it looks like they were able to secure the top rune there. Viper is going to pick it up, and unfortunately Queen of Pain not quite quick enough to be able to get that bottom one, and is going to head down to the safe lane. So a little bit of an interesting dynamic here. What do you think about this choice of sending the Viper into the mid, who's going to be going up against this DP? Do you like this matchup more than the Queen of Pain would have happened?
I like the aspect of if there are many sacrifices on the mid lane, which is actually really convenient for the Lich, then the Viper won't be as hindered by it as the Queen of Pain is. But as you can see, the Lich is actually down bottom when we don't have a range creep with this wave. So SSS is not going to be hitting level 2 no matter if he can dodge all the denies. And in the meantime, the Viper, he'll just be trading with the Death Prophet. He does have this kind of nice advantage where if he gets his boots out early enough, he should be able to break all the Spirit Siphons and still get a lot of good harassment damage in. And this will overall limit the DP's early potential. But I'm still a little bit worried about this Queen of Pain. The fact is her experience progression is going to be quite slow thanks to this Lich pick, and it is going to be something that they kind of have to play around.
A couple nice little things there with the early wards that came out as well from the Earth Spirit. He was able to take out the Sentry as well as the Obs, and then you see on the lane there they were able to get the other Observer ward. And SSS taking a little bit of damage, forced to blink away. This feels like this might be a common theme here in this lane. Batrider and Lich just punishing that Quap.
Yeah, but he does already have not only the Enchanted Mango, but Tangos and Wand, so a lot of this harassment is something that he can endure. He's probably going to have to at least ferry out one healing salve this laning phase if he doesn't go for the Bottle Rush, but he is going to be, generally speaking, all right. He is still going to be able to kind of take that punishment and throw it back the other way. And one great thing about the fact that the Lich is poking at bottom is now Rand gets to do more on the Doom here. Now, he didn't go for level 1 Devour, surprisingly. Wanted the Scorched Earth. That hasn't really gotten a chance to use it, but the Enchantress is actually going to be using those creeps to jump in here on dogfights.
Yeah, a couple more right clicks. They've already got the Infernal Blade out. They do look like they might be able to bring her down, and First Blood going the way of Ran, and Doom was able to secure that one. Pretty nicely done as we see it start off here for FTD.B, and a pretty good play.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's one reason why you don't want to go for level 1 Devours. You don't want to eat the creeps that Enchantress needs to gank with. So I think that there's a very valid reason to delay the Devour here, because you have the Mud Golem in play. You have the Troll so that you get enough Disable so you get that kill. So he's actually going to go for a relatively no Devour build right now. Now he's going to go 1-1-1, maybe find something deeper in the jungle to eat.
Mid lane. They're actually going to be able to maybe kill. Oh, he missed uphill.
Oh, that miss is so huge too.
I love the 2 Nether Toxin build also. It seemed like it caught DP a little bit off guard there.
Yeah, definitely. He's just getting harassed so heavily, but they're going to roll in. Yeah.
Quick, one more right click. They are going to be able to find it. The minus armor coming in there, and Ping finds a kill. The captain, he does it.
All right, so that's going to be the first opportunity for him to get a kill in about 5 or 6 months' time of competitive play, but it is going to be a good start for him. You need the kills like that to start resetting the laning phase. So we got to play around with Lich a little bit in 6.87, especially when he was Imba in the A patch, but one really strong thing, one thing that you can take away from Lich and the whole sacrifice thing is he can't really trade 1-to-1 as well, because he's already got that experience advantage from the sacrifice. He's taking 40% of every other creep wave and giving it to himself. He's going to have a level advantage. If you trade 1-to-1, it's not a favorable trade because you're actually giving more experience to the enemy than to yourself. So in this case, the bottom line is just don't feed in this bottom lane. You have to make sure that you're playing it safe, that you're winning by a war of attrition rather than actually taking heavy confrontations, because every kill you give up on this bottom lane is going to give that much more to FTD.B.
Well, and it seems like now they're sort of switching up the way that they want to try and run this, as we do see still a battle in the mid lane as Viper dropped a little bit low. But Enchantress is playing like a much more farm-oriented build, but she does now have the Purge creep as well as the Satyr Tormentor, so there's a lot of slow if they're going to be able to find somebody. A couple pings are coming out, and looks like it's from the Queen of Pain, and they might try and find something. But the big stack taken down here by iG.Vitality. Pretty nice for him, all in all. I'm really curious, do you feel like this Enchantress needs to get stuff done, or is it fine for her to just keep farming up for a while?
Well, she has created enough space for this Doom in the offlane in general. I think that that's a really significant merit. Oh, as we miss a kill there in mid, Fran just able to run him down there with the haste rune that was actually kept up by the Lich for as long as possible. But yeah, I think that Pretty Hot is giving space for Ran, and Ran is actually going to be doing a lot better in the laning phase than the draft initially implied, because with the Lich in play and with their potential to just zone and harass, I mean, even just basic Venge Gyrocopter, Magic Missile, and the Rocket Barrage, that can absolutely devastate a hero that is vulnerable in the laning stage. But we see Doom is not only surviving, but he's thriving. He's actually found himself level 5 already in this laning stage, and while that's not advantageous compared to the Dire, it's a lot better than I expected.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that this is really going to sort of set the tone for them at least. It's interesting because we talked about the sort of, as we see again down in the bottom lane, SSS continue to harass in July. It seemed like it was the type of lane where they needed to come out ahead. And if you look at the way that FTD.B have really been able to build up the CS lead, it's been a focus on making sure that that happens. And it was first by a kill that happened up top, and then, you know, a return kill as well down in the bottom lane. And now it's just trying to sort of cement that lead by continuing to farm up with these creeps. And I've been really impressed so far. I was not coming into this game giving them a lot of credit, but they've really shown that they've been working hard here.
Yep, so we're going to be seeing them kind of just try to break into the mid game. When their ultimates come online, that's when kills start happening very directly, and they start taking the fight to their opposition. They start going into kind of deathball mode. You know, a little bit of trouble up top. I'm not sure that they can actually secure this one, though. They have plenty of HP to tower dive with, but with the Magic Missile coming out, still not going to be able to get this Gyro alive. And with no TP, they're not even going to get a return kill. Like, Doom took so many tower shots there.
Dogfights?
Yeah, like, this should be absolutely a return, but they don't have anybody to TP. They just have the long rotation. Now, finally, Fran comes in, pops the Exorcism, will be able to get Pretty Haw, but they've already lost so much in the Gyro and the Lich.
Oh, God. I don't know about that one. That was really unfortunate. You look at it and, God, you would love to be able to find more out of that. It just feels like iG.V are a little bit not all on the same page here. You think about those early rotations as they ended up happening. You think about the fact that you had the capability there to TP there somebody from the off lane, and I'm not exactly sure. What do you need to do right now if you're iG.V? How do you build back momentum at this point? You don't have Exorcism now also. That first Exorcism was to kill the Enchantress.
Yeah, I feel like you really need to just have better reactions. Like, the DP had a TP. It was absolutely a tower dive from the Doom. Even with a speed aura, you can still punish that with a TP as long as you put it as forward as possible. But he wanted to go for the flank. He got a little bit greedy there, trying to go for more than one kill. And as a result, he loses so much for himself. The Gyrocopter dying at level 6 when he's the one who should be creating kill opportunities. But they will still look for this smoke. They're kind of wrapping back towards top when they need to be focused here on the mid. This Viper is a really big kill, and I think that they can secure it, even though there are 3 points here in that passive, the Corrosive Skin.
All right, well, they've got the level 2 Magic Missile. They're going to end up throwing it out there. Call down is going to be available. They're going to drop it, and a quick and easy one. Actually going to bring in SSS as well. Turns around with the Sonic Wave, but it's not really enough to find a kill onto Super, and they just TP away on Dogfights, trying to jump forward. Scream of Pain comes out, and it does look like Fran is finally going to go, as does Super. So 2-for-1 exchange. Gyrocopter does make his escape, but that was pretty nice there as they end up finding another one up there in the top lane. My goodness.
Yeah, so this is just going to be a huge amount of momentum for FTD.B. The fact is, iG.V's first Exorcism has failed, first Gyro Smoke has failed. Like, these are the quintessential ways for a Chinese team to take over with this kind of a draft, is you use these early ultimates, you kind of get a numbers advantage, catch somebody by surprise, and you go. The next power spike they have is when a Blink Dagger comes out on Batrider, and that's still like about 1,000 gold away once he finishes the stack.
All right, so it's been a little bit of a rough laning stage for iG.V. I will say that I still like their team fight abilities a lot. Like, you take a look at some of these ones. You've got Sonic Wave, which is on a crazy cooldown. They are sort of scouting out Pretty Haw, and it looks like Dogfights might think about going in for a Magic Missile here. 3 heroes in the area. If they don't get this, oh no. I mean, you're still right by the jungle, so Yuno's going to be able to farm, but you'd love to be able to find a little bit more than that there.
Yeah, of course, but it's just going to be kind of the slow roll for them. iG.V, again, they still have the late game, but the one consideration is how they're going to actually survive throughout each of the fights of the future. They just really don't have the effective HP right now. We are going to be seeing Treads and Bracer on the Death Prophet, and those can definitely help, but all in all, the raw health is what you're missing. Like, the FTD.B are going to be deathballing, are going to be ganking very heavily, and unless you're spreading the map and finding little pickoffs here and there with the Batrider, you're actually going to have to fight this. And when FTD.B do go into the 5-man mode, you cannot withstand them because Viper's going to have a mechanism, and iG.V just won't. There is no natural mech carrier in the first phase of the game. We have seen some Arcane Boots, Mechanism, Vengeful Spirits. We, of course, have seen plenty of Mechanism Lich, but that's all at a later stage and a greater economy than what we're seeing for the supports here.
You know, I do have to say I really like the infused raindrops pickup for the gyrocopter. It feels like that's maybe one of the ways in which you try and stay alive throughout this stage of the game. Ping has just been camping up here. He's ready to jump in at a moment's notice. Queen of Pain is also going to rotate in, and of course, you do have the rolling boulder. It's going to end up starting this fight off. Can they find the follow-up stun? There's as well going to be able to get the magnetize, and Dogfights is probably just going to die here. They do get the Doom onto Yuno. The chase is going to be there as well. The Exorcism's been popped, and Super is getting chased away. For the moment, it's already a 2-for-1 exchange, and Fran looks like she might be able to clean this one up. The turnaround is real, and can they find the kill before he TPs away? Yes, they do. Fran on a killing spree, and it's going to try and find SSS. The silence comes out. Maybe a follow-up here if they can get it in time, but there's the blink away, and I think that she's out of there now. Oh, maybe not. She actually doesn't have a TP scroll, so she's going to have to blink again. Well, Sonic Wave trying to hit off Nuno and does manage to find that kill. So a little something, but an ultra kill for Fran at 11 minutes. This is about as good of a start as you could potentially want, even though it didn't go great at the very beginning.
The infused Ray Chops actually almost got the turn there with the Sonic Wave Scream combo. Just was barely enough to kill the gyrocopter. If he was just a tiny bit more tanky, this game had gone even slightly better for him, then he would have actually been able to kill the Queen of Pain there instead of the other way around. But still, not too bad for the Death Prophet here, finishing the Drums of Endurance at a very early stage, and going to be able to kind of take that into the mid game. Lots of mobility, lots of tankability, and let's just talk about this build for a minute. I mean, Treads is a very uncommon pickup on the Death Prophet, but I actually feel like it can be potentially one of the better ones. When you're dealing with a lot of heavy burst damage, and it's not so much about keeping your Spirit Siphon in range and your Exorcism in range, it's about just surviving when they take the fight to you, actually really find a lot of value in the Treads. And then later on, he'll make up for that lack of movement speed by picking up drums, by picking up Yules, which are quintessential items. But the Treads and the Drum first are definitely not common builds, and it's for a reason. I mean, I feel like iG.V are desperate to just tank themselves up as the onslaught of FTD.B continues.
So here's my question. We got the Blink Dagger up on Injuly now. Still a ton of burst damage. Is this going to be the moment now? We were talking about how the FTD.B laning stage was really good. Was that the swinging point where now it's going to be that much harder in each and every subsequent team fight? Or do you still think that FTD.B have a bit of a lead? I guess it could change very rapidly as they're scouting this out. The blink is going to be there. Catches on to SSS. Calldown's going to be there. They do have the silence there as well with the magnetize going on to Ping. It does look like that's going to be another one as they've been able to trade 1-for-1 so far. Now Yuno is going to drop. Dogfight's running away. Oh, that was disastrous.
Yeah, they didn't even kill the Queen of Pain there. They put everything into her. The magic missile, the lasso, the call down, but she's the one that actually is able to blink out, bottle up, survive, and just keep going for the push here. And I gotta say that while I do feel that iG.V can fight when there are no major ultimates on the side of FTD.B, they've had Doom in that fight. They almost were able to get Sonic Wave out if they needed to, and FTD.B are just the stronger team at this stage. We're going to just see Doom go for frontline. He's got a Blade Mail, doesn't care at all. And it's just going to be so difficult for iG.V to really take these engages. I mean, they definitely need Exorcism involved. They are hoping to get a massive Chain Frost, at least 4 bounces in a fight. And that's something that can enable potential engagements. But so far, although they've been able to initiate really well on one target, the turnaround's always there for FTD.B. And that's just because they have the stronger heroes right here, right now.
Yeah, and you're going to be seeing iG.V try and force the issue a little bit with the Exorcism here. With a couple of those ultis no longer on cooldown, I mean, you don't have Doom back up for another 50 seconds, so it might be a little bit scary to initiate, but if they can maybe find this moment as Exorcism is wearing off, they could go for it. 3 heroes smoked up, looking for their point where they're going to jump on them, and Injuly might be the target that they go on. Doom is still down for another 40. They're going to roll on in. They throw out the Scream of Pain. Super's going to be taking a lot of damage. The cooldown's on the other side. Sonic Wave as well. They're going to catch on to 3. Everybody from iG.V is so freaking low. And now Pretty Hog being controlled for the moment. It does look like they're going to end up being brought down. 2 are already dead for FTD.B, and it looks like the disengage is going to be clean enough for iG.V.
Really good use of the call down and the Chain Frost. There's just a lot of slows coming into play that they really couldn't fight around, and you could see major damage coming out there from just those 2 heroes alone. They could not get close to a target, they couldn't focus anybody down just because of how much space was created through those two ultimates. And as such, FTD.B, they were fighting into their own demise. They will be giving up a massive amount of golden experience. And we're actually going to see for the second time this game that iG.V are back in control in terms of experience. So now iG.V can begin their resurgence. They can get back into this game through just shorter cooldowns and hard pressure.
I will say that FTD.B, they got that mechanism that's back up as well. Like, all things are going to start to roll a little bit. I'm a little bit curious now what the next play is for you. What is the sort of predominant thing? Do we need to start thinking about taking towers? Is Roshan in any team's future here?
I don't think that Roche is actually under consideration for either side for a while. Sure, Ice Armor and Wave of Terror can absolutely help in terms of Roche, but it still takes a very long time unless you're willing to commit the Exorcism, which I think is too valuable of a cooldown just for Roche. I mean, Aegis is great on Gyro, but it's not enough to give up what is even more important in that Exorcism. So, yeah, we're going to see a little skirmish here. Vengeful Spirit trying to close in on the Queen of Pain, but a nice self-Yules, and they'll look to turn it around.
Oh, there's the Doom onto Yuno. They're going to be able to get the Infernal Blade off as well. Super is so very low, and he is going to drop. Yuno goes down as well. Suddenly, 2 are dead, and now it looks like there might be a little bit more. Can they actually turn this around, though? In July is going to be controlled for the moment. The Viper Strike is down on top of him as well. Fran is starting to drop. Yules again, and I think that might be curtains here. She is going to get controlled and finally killed. FTD.B strike back. My goodness.
Just really able to turn that around. What you don't want to be looking for here for iG.V are small skirmishes that don't involve a significant positioning control. And the 2 times that they've gone here have been on the Queen of Pain. The first time she was just able to blink away after they dropped so many spells into her. This time she was able to self-Yules and negate a couple. And when you lose that target priority, when you lose your ability to control the positioning of the one hero you're trying to focus on, suddenly you're going to be losing the fight, and the stronger cooldowns again are coming back into play. iG.V are at a loss of how to break into this next stage of the game. Now they're fighting up against Mechanism on the Viper. They have no Mechanism anytime soon from this Lich, and it just means that Super is going to continue to be poor unless he gets the luckiest Chain Frost bounce of his life, unless FTD.B just essentially walk into another combo of spells like we saw the fight before.
So what do you think about this Dragonlance pickup for Yuno? It's not something that we often see. It allows him to do a little bit more damage, but it kind of falls back, for me at least, into the idea of that the Gyrocopter doesn't really do much in a team fight. Like, he's not hitting incredibly hard. Is it worth it just because of the change to Agi?
I honestly think that Dragonlance is significantly better for your general Agi carry in 6.87 compared to 6.86. Having the agility as opposed to the quarterstaff components and the potential to even scale this item further, this is very important for heroes with short attack range and who are agility dependent. So I do feel like there's a lot of value in this pickup. It will give him the ability to space himself out a little bit better. So he can keep his distance from his opponents and still strike. Like Viper versus Gyrocopter is actually a really bad matchup for the Gyro, for this mere sake that it's very easy for the Viper to always be in range for everything, and the Gyrocopter has to kind of fight for it. Yeah. But here, you're not giving up an inch. You're not having to change your position on account of your opponents. You can kind of just stand and deliver. You're no Dwarven Sniper by any means, but you are a very high potency carry, and I do think that this item is really starting to get to the point where it's a valuable pickup, especially when you have a hero like Venge on your team, which will enhance that agility bonus further.
God, I gotta say, I really am impressed with the FTD item choice. It's unique stuff, and I'm not sure if it's going to end up working, but if it does, I love it. So first of all, you got the Hooded Defiance that's up on the Enchantresses. In July is cutting the creep wave over here. You've also been able to, a little bit of a disconnect there, Earth Spirit, having some trouble. But the thing that I was going to say is SSS now, he's going back for this Aghanim Scepter. You've got about 1,300 gold away from finishing off, and considering the punchy nature of the game, like, it's just been team fight after team fight. You take a look at the difference in terms of team net worth, and it's just this roller coaster that's slowly building up over time, and no team has really taken a significant lead, and it feels like the squad that's able to sustain that energy is going to be the one that ends up coming away with the win.
Yeah, I do feel, however, that FTD.B still have the better opportunity to take the Tier 2 towers and start compressing the map a lot more. In 6.86, we really got to learn a lot about the value of map control and, more importantly, resource control. If you're able to control the jungle, if you're going to be able to control the means of production, you're able to, therefore, get the stronger item pool that'll allow you to breach the high ground. And that's when Roche starts coming further into play. Once you have Tier 2 mid on Dire side and bottom on Dire side down, Roche is so much easier FTD.B, and they're just kind of able to walk it into the high ground to a certain extent. Now I'm curious, actually, the hood that you talked about, if we're actually going to be seeing that progressive dual full-on pipe, because that is a good answer to abilities like Chain Frost and Call Down, and pipe is a lot stronger in this patch thanks to not only a little bit cheaper build up with the hood, but also the fact that you can actually stack multiple pipes. Not necessary this game whatsoever, but it's an option for going up against really magical heavy lineups. It's actually, in my mind, a counter to certain strategies going into a bunch of good theory crafting as we get into this pause. But here, at the very least, it's a great bread and butter pickup. Doesn't cost the Enchantress too much. Gives her a little spell shield for himself. But I could see a lot of value in him going for the pipe and then going back for his own offensive build-up, going for the Dragonlance himself, maybe even that new Hurricane Pike. Like, there is so much potential for the Enchantress as we go into the mid to late game, but pretty hot. He's mostly just been playing a gank style. He's roamed. He's been effective. I mean, he's been in 5 of the 15 kills for FTD.B, giving it to the cores as they need that gold. But I would love to see Pretty Hot make a little bit of time for himself and really start to show what this Enchantress can do as the game goes forward.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, you can tell we're in a new patch. The Gyrocopter has the Dragonlance, the Enchantress has the Hood. You know, we've got the new item that's here on the Earth Spirit as well, the Blightstone. He is going to be going back into that Veil also, so it's a bit of that double down upon the magical damage that they've got themselves. It's not incredibly tremendous. I mean, you look at the side of FTD.B, and they've got obviously Earth Spirit, which does a ton. You're going to be able to get a decent amount as well out of the magical damage from Inferno Blade and Scorched Earth and some of the stuff that the Queen of Pain has thrown out there as well. What do you feel like is really going to be one of those key items that allow iG.V to try and bring this back? What's the thing that they are doing, or is it just every time that Exorcism is off cooldown?
I mean, Exorcism is a key factor, and keeping that alive is a big deal. So the BKB Yules combo is going to be very important on the Death Prophet. Obviously, we're going to be seeing Fran gain durability and gain the ability to extend the play and extend the fight. But I think an important thing is going to be Venge picking up level 11, perhaps an Ether Lens, if not. Well, obviously, the Lich is going for the mech, so this frees up Venge to go for something a little bit different. I think Ether going for the swap on the Doom is a really important way to deal with the FTD.B aggression. They're going to be rolling in on somebody, they're going to be blinking in on somebody, and they're going to be dooming them. But if you get that swap out, you can kind of wait it out, get back into the fight with the above half HP, and then you can still kind of do what you need to contribute to your team's victory. So I think that extending the range on the Nether Swap is going to be a big thing. Obviously, just gaining HP overall is going to continue to be very important. That's why is also going back to the BKB.
Well, it does look like now we're going to have a little bit of time for everybody to refill their farming cycle. We've got ourselves the Tier 1, all the Tier 1 towers for the Dire are down at this point, and they've only been able to secure themselves the 2 there in the mid and bottom. So hotly contested as far as vision is concerned. You can see that for FTD.B, they've got pretty good eyes into the, at least around that Roshan pit, and then for the side of iG.Vitality, they've been able to take a quick look into their jungle. But it looks like now they're going to end up trying to go for a smoke play. iG.V grouped up together and going to be going in as 4 and make some use out of this Aegis.
Yeah. Now, the Radiant do have a scan up. We haven't really gotten a chance to talk about this, but that's mostly because, well, we haven't seen but maybe one scan this game, and it's still something that a lot of teams are starting to get a better feel for how to actually use this ability. But it is a great way of detecting if there's a more threatening presence here, and we are going to be seeing them place it, but just on the high ground here in a position where it can very often be a great ambush opportunity. So just kind of checking things out. Doesn't actually give them any more information, but at least it tells them where the enemy isn't and where is more safe to farm.
Well, and you can see right now that they're sort of posturing, realizing that they might be up on that high ground. They're positioning Viper to be up front center. They're going to be able to pull him back. They do not have the mechanism that's going to be able to come out. They do manage to get it off, and the Sonic Wave hits onto 4. It's so much freaking damage. Yuno's going to end up dropping off the back of this. Aegis down, but so is Super. And iG.V just walk into a terrible situation for themselves. Yuno is going to fall. Oh, Blaze, what happened?
Well, like you said, a 4-man Sonic Wave will certainly do the trick here. The one thing that iG.V just don't have to work with here is effective HP. They still don't have the mech on the Lich, so eating that much damage from the Queen of Pain is something you cannot mitigate. It's something that you cannot recover from. They just took 2,900 damage from Queen of Pain through Veil, Sonic Wave, and a triple Scream. This hero just annihilated them, and it just comes down to them when they're fighting with their Batrider, they're all focusing a target at close range. The Death Prophet and the Gyrocopter both want to be close proximity to a target when they're hard focusing them. And then that just sets up the Queen of Pain so nicely for this massive amount of AoE damage output that they still don't have an answer to. Even when they finish BKBs, they'll still be a bit away from being able to actually sustain against this damage. And without this mech, it's just so hard for iG.V to really take a fight. Even one as convincing as that gets turned against them so quickly. And now you got the Ags on the Queen of Pain, maybe even like Octarine as we go forward, making that cooldown even shorter. And it's just going to be so difficult to fight into FTD.B.
I am so concerned right now. I'm looking at this and trying to figure out how you get back into this game at this point. Every move that they've made across the map was pretty well realized by FTD.B. You said that there earlier. They scanned up on the high ground, realizing that's one of the spots they could have gone to, and then they baited out that Viper in the mid lane. They knew that if he was going to end up getting jumped on there, they were going to be able to keep him alive, and he mech'd up. He was able to get the Sonic Wave back, and it just... Oh God, it's feeling like everything that iG.V are using is just working against them. So, what's the next thing for them here? We keep on saying this, and they're not finding the moments. Do they have to get another Aegis now, or do you need to wait for that BKB is up on Yuno?
I feel like the one thing that you have to do if you're in Invictus Game of Vitality's shoes is you have to force FTD.B to spread. Right now, they still haven't pushed all that heavily. The mid tier 2 is gone, but FTD.B have mostly been, like you said, baiting and grouping, and it's really hard to confidently just go in and say, well, we're going to be able to go and jump somebody because you expect 3 or 4 heroes behind them. So what I'm thinking is they have to go for a smoke like we saw, but don't make it so obvious. Don't make 4 heroes miss off the map. Show 2 or 3 heroes. Maybe only a 2-man smoke, but the important thing is that you get a numbers advantage, a 3 versus 1. Just find an opportunity where you can actually isolate a kill. We will see, however, FTD.B tried to do that the other way as dogfights. Oh, a nice TP play. Baits out the Doom at the very least. Like, obviously he's not getting out of here, but forcing out those cooldowns is an important step for iG.V to take back the map.
They are just, yeah, and you saw right there as well, right before that ended up happening, they were able to get the courier snipe. Like, everything is just looking so good in consideration together. And I'm really concerned at this point. Like, we were looking at this Queen of Pain that's snowballing. We're looking at the Doom now as well with the Blink Dagger, his Blade Mail. We also have a lot of AoE abilities here from iG.V, where if you get this hero very tanky, now all of a sudden you can't use a cooldown because it's going to be dealing that much damage back towards Gyrocopter. You're not going to be able to go for the Exorcism play because that's actually going to be reflected back even though the DP has a BKB. All of these things just feel like it's so difficult for iG.V to come back into this, and they need to start taking some objectives.
Yeah. Fortunately, the Gyrocopter will have his BKB soon, and the Blade Mail's not that in, but it won't reflect the magical damage back at him once he's got his BKB up. But it is still going to be kind of trying for him as he gets nuked down time and time again. We're actually going to be seeing an Octarine core on Queen of Pain. This was a build that I saw experimented with a couple of times in European Dota right after Octarine came out. It brings the cooldown of Sonic Wave down to 30 seconds. And I think the most important aspect is actually your Blink cooldown is super short, 4.5 seconds on Blink. So you're so mobile, you're so hard to lock down. As long as you Yule's off the silence, they have to commit lasso to you, and we've seen how that works out from time to time. It really is just so difficult for iG.V to pin down a target, and now this Queen of Pain, if she can make a fight last 30 seconds, is guaranteed to win it because of that second Sonic Wave.
Yeah, this is... oh, God. And you're looking also at the levels. Queen of Pain now level 16 with that ultimate, so 550 pure damage. It's so hard to fight into this lineup. And you start to take a look at some of the other heroes on the side of iG.V. You've got the DP, who's the next highest at 15, and then you've got everybody. The supports are so low, level 9 on that Venge, level 10 on the Lich. And I am really concerned right now about really, maybe the next play is that smoke to try and secure themselves the next Roshan, and maybe try and take a team fight around that. As the game goes on, does it get easier for iG.V? Is that a play to try and just sort of delay it out as long as possible and hope that Gyrocopter eventually gets enough farm to carry him through?
Naturally, yes. I mean, we are only 26 minutes into the game after all. However, I feel like you're not just going to get it over the test of time. Right now, FTD.B have enough control over the map that you actually have to fight back. You have to be able to take some of that map control back, at least get a gem on the Batrider and follow him everywhere, because the important thing is not just time taking its toll, but also you actually improving your metrics, getting the net worth back under control. Where right now it's well over 8,000 in favor of FTD.B, while they experience about 3,500. You have to start narrowing that gap, and whether that's finding the right smoke play to actually get a free kill, or if it's just cleaning up wards and finding free farming space. iG.V can't just let the clock run on this one. They actually have to be proactive about it.
Oh, and they're trying to take that tower there, but it looks like there's a smoke play that's going to be coming in. They get the Doom onto Fran to start it all off, and they are going to be able to get the silence off as well. Infernal Blade comes out, a couple more right clicks, and this should be another kill. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to find any more as the Batrider's hiding away. Actually gets spotted out by the Enchantress, but blinks away into the trees and should be able to TP. Easy peasy for July. So they find the DP, God, every little bit. It's clawing away at the morale, I'm sure.
Yeah, so right now it's just really difficult for them to stick with it, and they don't really have a way to dig themselves out of this hole soon. Like 2 or 3 items later, absolutely they can start bringing this back. But right now, your Gyrocopter, he drops everything. At best, he gets all 6 flat cannon shots out, and still FTD.B are a 2/3 HP or higher. It's just so difficult to actually fight at this stage. And I think Exorcism is really the factor now. Not just Chain Frost. Chain Frost getting multiple bounces off and not just whiffing is a necessity. But on top of that, they need this TP to survive when, of course, you're expecting her to be the primary target.
Well, and you just look at this as well, and you got the Purge creep now on Doom as well, so if he jumps into you, Infernal Blade is a problem. I mean, this spell does so much damage, and the constant ability to get the stun off and the right-click damage that Doom already does when he's got this amount of farm. He's the second most farmed hero in the game, and he's been able to pick up the Blade Mail. He's got himself the Drums of Endurance, still sticking with Tranquil Boots, but honestly, it's just... I don't know how you deal with this hero even, let alone everything else that they've got on their side. It's a real struggle.
It definitely is, and there's no way that you can like focus him down. You can't lasso a Doom and expect to actually burst him down. Even with a full Exorcism up, precasted, you don't focus the Doom within the lasso duration. Actually going to be just really difficult for them to find a way back in, because even if they went for Lingosphere, the Doom is keeping that creep up. The Satyr Trickster with the Purge makes it so he could just blink, Purge, and then go for the Doom, and it's really, really difficult. iG.V, they are desperate to find something. The mechanism certainly helps their situation. The level 2 Chain Frost also, but every time FTD.B just get the jump.
Yeah, there it is again. They pop the BKB there for Yuno, trying to turn and walk away from this one for the moment. Ping a little bit left out on an island. Does look like he's going to end up going down as the silence was there, but they're already going to have to back on out. So they find one, actually going to be able to reinitiate. This might be enough. They're going to throw out the Sonic Wave, going to connect onto several. Is it going to be enough damage, though? They've got the Chain Frost going, swapping back in onto Ran. The right clicks are going to be there. It looks like Dogfights, though, is going to end up being controlled pretty hot with the right click damage is going to be there. And Exorcism now turning back around, trying to find SSS. He does blink away for the moment, and I think with that, it's going to call for the disengage. As everybody heads back away, they trade support for support, and it feels pretty tenuous for the moment.
Not too shabby for iG.V, though. They do get the Doom on cooldown. You can't even really call Sonic Wave a cooldown anymore, but that one is used as well, and they weather that storm. They get a slight gold and experience advantage. They, most importantly, just don't fall to the FTD.B aggression like they have been. They're able to stand their ground. They're even able to get that kill when the Earth Spirit overstays is welcome, and they're showing that they are able to kind of just run the gauntlet. They are kind of this vanguard of heroes that, while they aren't the best at dividing themselves in the fights and creating a big concave to spread themselves out and avoid the big AoEs, they're starting to get tankier. They're starting to get stronger. They are able to at least deal with the initial barrage of the Queen of Pain. Like, we got to see throughout that fight, multiple blinks. a lot of mobility from the Queen of Pain. They're not going to kill her. They're not going to pin her down. But if they can just withstand her barrage of damage while they focus other alternative targets, I think that that's their way to get themselves back, take advantage of the comeback gold. Focus heroes like the Earth Spirit, the Enchantress, maybe the Viper. It's sad to say a Viper is like the third tankiest hero in this game, but that's the facts of life here, and we'll see if iG.V can take advantage of it.
So one thing I want to touch on real quickly is we just saw the Tome of Knowledge picked up for both sides. That allowed dogfights to get level 11. This is something that I think is pretty freaking cool now, is the way that comeback mechanics are not necessarily requiring kills. You're going to be able to find a way to come back into this game. You're not completely out of it without necessarily having to be able to have that like stronger squad right off the bat. You have the Tome of Knowledge. Now Vengeful Spirit is going to be able to not just be cannon fodder in this. I mean, you still are going to be by nature of the hero, but you're more effective cannon fodder, I should say.
Yeah, I suppose.
And it looks like they're going to be able to put pressure this tier 2 tower. It should end up falling. Is this a moment where they might think about going high ground at this point?
I mean, it's so much easier to go for Roche, but it looks like they want to at least force some TPs back before anything else comes out. Exorcism did just come
up. Oh my god, Super just jumped on he popped his mechanism already, and it looks like he is going to maybe end up going down. They blink away, they swap actually back in. SSS, there's the self-fuels, the magic missile is going to end up going through, and it looks like for the moment, they're going to end up just being content with the 1, so what the heck? Pretty Hot trying to run away for the moment. It does look like they're going to be able to secure him for the moment. Trying to back out, having a little bit of trouble seeing it all, and it looks like the disengage is going to happen with just the Lich being the one that ended up dying there.
Yeah, so this is something that SSS could just do whenever he feels like it. He can jump into the base, drop everything on a target, and with this 4.5 second cooldown on Blink, he could just keep going. Now, we both are seeing the same thing. Unfortunately, a little bit of delay on the action here as we are going from China all the way out here to the studios in LA, but we're still like seeing a really good set of results for FTD.B. The Queen of Pain is free to act as she will. Now, next she's going to get a Hex to control this even better. And the only thing that iG.V can really depend on is defensive swaps. Like, that's the only thing that actually can salvage this situation, is if Dogfights plays perfectly, plays reactively, and, of course, plays sacrificially. That's really the only way that they can withstand this aggressive stance from a Queen of Pain that just honestly can't die.
Yeah. I will say also that we've now got 2 smokes that are up and online for iG.Vitality. You take a look at what FTD.B are doing, and they're smoked up and ready to go. It did look like they scouted this out with the scan. They're going to be able to keep eyes on things, and Yuno is going to be controlled for the moment. They get the Doom down onto Fran, I believe. Yes, she is not going to be able to get off her ultimate here, and Yuno doing as much damage as possible. He pops on down that Blade Mail on the Doom, and it looks like Dogfights might be able to escape from this one. Sonic Wave comes through as well. Vengeful Spirit dropping very low with the chase continuing on here. It does look like there's going to be a little bit of slideshow Dota going on, but I promise you the action is occurring. Holy heck, where are they at? And Queen of Pain finds a kill on the Vengeful Spirit. That's what we got from that one, folks.
All right, Dota2.ppt is online, but we will see the fight recap just letting us know that there is one lowly support that will fall, doing her duty as she must. If she ends the game 0-20, gets a full Milk Award for this one, it's actually the best thing that she can do. Like, it's not about her creating kill opportunities as much as it is just negating the initiation of FTD.B so that they have a chance to fight back. And the fact that the DP doesn't have to go down there is the key factor, because she really just can't afford to die at this point. She needs every penny she can get to get her late game item stage up, because, of course, all abilities now scale with intelligence. So building something like a Hex, fine. Like, build a Shiva's Guard, anything that will allow her to not only survive, which is very important for her skill set in general, but also to deal the higher amounts of damage later on in the game. AC is still good, because obviously Gyrocopter and DP are both putting out a lot of physical damage, but you do have the Wave of Terror already enhancing that. So if she wants to just go for something like a Shiva's Guard, I would be perfectly fine with that as well, but the bottom line is she needs that cash.
Absolutely, and it looks like now they're going to be thinking about going on in here, contesting Roshan, the flame break over in the mid lane. They are going to be able to drop this, and it looks like Viper is going to pick the Aegis unharmed, unbroken, And FTD.B reloaded to go in again. They had the Arcane Rune on SSS, which meant, guess what, a 21-second cooldown on Sonic Wave.
Oh, why not?
555
Why not?
magic damage, or excuse me, pure damage coming out there. And wants to use it one more time. Oh, excuse me, that's Rand that's moved up to the top lane to push this one back out. So, oh, when it rains, it pours for iG.V. I mean, they're staring down the barrel of around 14,000 net worth lead into their favor and about 5,000 experience. Is there any silver lining that we can find for them here?
For iG.V, they are still the late game force. They have to look at Divine Rapiers and such, but they do have the potential. Let's say they get Satanic as well as Divine Rapier on the Gyrocopter. You have the potential to take it to the late game stage. Also, Gyrocopter is just naturally getting tankier right now. The Scotty for now, I do believe he'll go Satanic next, and then he'll go for damage. But the bottom line is Yuno is more and more survivable. And FTD.B have a finite amount of damage they can put out until 30 seconds elapse and the cooldowns keep rolling. So overall, I do think that Gyrocopter is getting into a better and better position in this game.
Mid lane, SSS is scouting things out, and they certainly don't want to allow that Gyrocopter to get to that late game scenario, as they're going to be stalking the area, but don't want to give anything away either. And that's the whole scary part to me right now if I'm playing and I'm FTD.B is, you know, this matchup in particular, we can sort of talk for a moment about how important it is for both of these teams. There's a lot of other great squads in their group, and they need to make sure that they're able to come away with this one from, I hesitate to say weaker because it's a brand new patch. Like, anything can happen, but at least leading up to this tournament, they were definitely two of the squads that were struggling more.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't seen FTD.B even perform with this particular 5-man roster. Ping has not been playing with them, and that is already going to be lowering expectations, and it makes that even more of an important matchup for iG.V because there are some giants in Group A. You've got eHome, CDEC, and Vici Gaming as well, and each one of those is their own trial. CDEC a lot better than they were a couple of months ago. So I would definitely say that this is one of the most critical matches iG.V can face, and going into it with a potential Game 1 loss, this is definitely going to be setting them back. I mean, FTD.B are got to be thrilled. I'm not going to make any assumptions about their expectations going into this, but I am going to say that this is a match they're happy to be performing so well in, and so far so good. They really do look like they have what it takes to take it to the end game, to take it to the high ground. But at least for right now, we still got this Viper Aegis for a little bit longer, and they're just kind of looking for their opening. We've seen a little bit of scanning back and forth, but end of the day, iG.V are in a very defensive position. They are fortified pretty much in their base nonstop.
Well, and we talked about the importance of being able to maintain that map control and how much, like, well, iG.V do have that greater late game scenario if they're able to get to those items. If you don't have any map control at all, guess what? You're not getting items. You're just farming creep waves while your enemy farms jungle, and you're sort of waiting that the death of 1,000 cuts to some extent. In July, you've still got a great ability to jump on in there, catch with the Flaming Lasso. They are going to start to move up to high ground, and the Viper, one of the better heroes at just being able to right-click towers with that Aegis up on him there. Still sort of flirting away there with SSS on the Queen of Pain. What's the best way to go in on this fight?
It's tough because all they're going to do is just let the Viper siege the tower. He's got Aegis, he's got Ice Armor from a Possessed Ogre from the Enchantress, and he's just able to take tower shot after tower shot. Even if they swap him in, that's an okay way for FTD.B to start the fight, as long as they're ready to jump as soon as they see a spell fly. So in this case, they're actually perfectly fine with just having Viper be the only hero right here, sieging away, chipping down this tower, and it will be taking more and more damage as it gets further into that Nether Toxin range. So they're just going to keep healing the Viper up. He's going to keep taking up and using this first life to great effect, and wave after wave, the structural damage will take its toll.
And I mean, you look at this lineup right now, you've been able to get a bunch of defensive E-type abilities, and I kind of can't help but wonder too, if you step a little bit too far forward for iG.V, you're going to have a big old Doom in your face, dropping that down onto Fran, and that is not something that they can afford to happen on any of these heroes. Each and every one of them so integral to their defense of this high ground. They are going to be able to pull them on in now, and this is going to be the start of the fight. Exorcism has already popped. They're going to be able to burst through him a first time, but can they bring him down a second time now? SSS hasn't thrown out the Sonic Wave. In July is there, and they're trying to control for the moment. B-Ran pops the Blade Mill. They're trying to find any ability to shut them down. It does look like FTD is starting to drop fairly low. It does look like the Venge is going to drop as well. So 2 so far for the side of FTD, a little bit overextending, and now it looks like Ran is going to get ran out of the base. Already the Earth Spirit is going to be able to make his escape, but oh, I don't know about that one. Triple kill for Yuno. If they were able to kill the gyrocopter,
man.
that might have been huge, but feeding those over to him.
No, but the problem is they can't actually go for the gyrocopter when the DP ultimate is up. They realize that they have to doom her, and they have to focus her. Ideally, they just doom her before she casts Exorcism, and they jump on anybody but the gyro or the Death Prophet. Once you kill the support staff, then the carries become that much easier to bring down. But as we just saw, the Death Prophet was able to get her BKB and her Exorcism out before the Doom came, and as such, she was a lot harder to bring down than they expected. They got so much more than they were bargained for, diving under tier 4s to finish her off, and in the meantime, Gyrocopter is laying waste. He's gone for the perfect itemization to survive, to make it impossible for them to target him unless he's completely out of position, and it's gonna get harder for FTD.B to break the high ground. I feel like that was actually their peak potential to break the high ground with that Aegis siege. And then once finally in July makes his move with the BKB, they're able to prevail. Now, FTD.B will be picking up their Assault Karas, will be making their way very slowly towards the Earth Spirit Aghanims, but as a whole, I definitely say that was their optimal timing window, and now they're just gonna have to outmaneuver and outplay. This Refresh Orb will certainly come into play. With the Octarine cooldown reducer on that item, as well as on the abilities of Queen of Pain herself, we're going to be seeing a lot of ultimates come out from her, a lot of potential damage output. But end of the day, they don't have single target damage.
Yeah, I would agree. It does feel like this is one of those moments where you need to be able to have that follow-up. The traditional Agi super hard carry, Viper's gone for a much more of like the utility stacking up auras and just trying to stay alive and be tanky type of build. And that means that the Queen of Pain's not able to dole out as much damage as they're going to need her to be. So I would completely agree. And I actually really like the Scotty too. This is something we were talking about earlier. That in conjunction with the Dragon Lance allows Gyrocopter to have much more damage than he would previously. I think about it normally as like the Sanjin Yasha BKB for the Gyrocopter with maybe like Helm of the Dominator completed too, and it feels like such less value, those types of items versus this combo that we've been seeing. I'm really, really impressed by iG.V's tenacity. And still banking the 5,200, do you think that he goes to finish that full Satanic? Is it worth it to try and build into something like an MKB at any point, or is that not really value enough because there isn't evasion yet?
Now, up against Doom, you still always have to look at your buyback cooldown and your buyback cost. Right now, he has 3,900 surplus, and I do think he puts that into Satanic. I absolutely do. But there could be an argument made for offensive. There definitely could be an argument made for a Divine Rapier. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, given what they were able to showcase in their last fight. But all the same, it is definitely one of those things where you have the buyback gold, you have this cost. Once you get out of your base and get to the item you need, you absolutely can be even tankier and do even more. So I like, in general, the Gyrocopter's real just diligence, patience, and progression. But one thing I will comment on is that he's mostly doing this in a very defensive stance where he is not able to make as much of an impact via flak cannon. When you're that much more distance away, when you're 495 away, you only get about 500 extra units of flak from your initial attack range. So if Batrider pulls the target out of position and you flak too early, you're actually not going to be hitting too much in terms of secondary and tertiary damage. Yuno is mostly just going to be single target, which is not the hero's point. So what Yuno has to do is be very careful how he flaks, when he flaks, and then the damage will matter. Then this presumably Divine Rapier, maybe MKB, pickup will come further into play.
You can also see right now as well for SSS, the Refresher has been picked up, still at the base, but this is maybe that answer. If 555 pure damage isn't enough, let's double up on it. Let's do over 1,000 in a couple of seconds. She's got a huge mana pool at this point. They're actually going to be able to catch there, though, in pretty bad shape, as they're going to be able to bring them down pretty quickly. That is going to be a problem. And now Roshan, free for the taking potentially. Is this, like, we already saw a bit of a turnaround of those tier 3 towers. How concerned are you right now if you're FTD.B?
I mean, it's very concerning right now. To lose Enchantress in that position means that now iG.V are able to take back the eastern part of the map. They still have top lane pushing out, but that's not as big of a deal because they're still able to move in formation with 3 heroes in this kind of southern spot. They're getting their next item here on the Death Prophet. It is the Shivas. So you've got Shivas, Octarine, BKB, and Yules. This hero is suddenly that much more difficult to bring down. And heck, they're even smoking up here. There is no scan available for FTD.B, and they also didn't have any wards in this area. All they know is that top isn't being pushed out. So yes, we are going to be seeing the Roche attempted, and FTD.B have to make a move without the Enchantress.
Oh, they're going to drop right on into it. SSS gets silenced. They have the Yules that's going to lift her up for the moment, but that's going to be the pullback, and oh, disaster strikes in the pit. They are going to be able to control for the moment, doomed up, and it does look like the Chain Frost is doing a ton of damage, but is it going to be enough? They bring him down fairly shortly. Rand's still alive. He actually ends up dropping there, and oh, God. That was not the way that fight needed to go.
And they didn't get anything out of the Queen of Pain there. She buys back. She tries to blink back as quickly as she can to the fight, but she doesn't have a slot for TP, doesn't have BOTs, and she didn't get a single Sonic Wave out. And you cannot win fights without Sonic Wave now. There's just too much durability on iG.V, where before, in the first 20 minutes of the game, it was the exact opposite, where you could take fights no matter what, and iG.V couldn't survive through it. Now they've beefed themselves up. They've braced themselves for a Sonic Wave, and there wasn't even a single one, let alone 2. There wasn't a single Sonic Wave. So we got to see iG.V take a free pick-off on the Enchantress, essentially a free pick-off on the Queen of Pain, and the timing just being all wrong makes it perfect for iG.V, where now they have Aegis up on the Death Prophet. Now they have the entirety of the map back. Gyrocopter, not only his MKB finished, but now banking 1,900 gold surplus over his buyback, which will go into another amazingly powerful item for him to just build further. Like right now, FTD.B have to be terrified that this game is just fallen out of control. And I don't want to blame it on any one person, but I gotta say that Pretty Ha has not lived up to my expectations on the Enchantress. Yes, he did okay in the early laning phase, but what has he done since then? It feels like the Enchantress hasn't even been here. He's ice armored the Viper, but that's it. I've been noting this a lot when in my research for 6.87 games in China, a lot, especially in the open qualifiers, is they're still building all this Dragonlance Aghanims as if it is the same exact patch, when I've seen a lot better item build-ups in NA and in games that even I've been playing in. It's like you get potential to build into Hurricane Pike, you have the potential to build up Moonshard and do so much pure damage, which is the single target damage they're lacking, and instead he's just kind of building up methodically. He's like, okay, Dominator, Dragonlance, Aghanims. Does those items actually enable him to do what he needs to do to single target focus down a hero? Maybe 20 minutes ago, but now it's a concern.
Absolutely, and they throw out the Sonic Wave, but that just means it's time to go for July. He pulls him back in. SSS controlled for the moment, gets the self-Yules off. They're doing so much damage with here. He does have that MKB already up and online, but you're going to try to find a kill there with the Infernal Blade. Was seeing if he could get a couple more hits. They'd swap him on back, and now he's just going to drop it down. The second Sonic Wave does come out, but I'm not sure if they have enough of a follow-up at this point in time. Fran is about to be able to get those ghosts back in a second, gets the Yule Scepter to lift her on up. They've already lost 2, but I don't think they're going to lose anymore. SSS just trying to run away from the moment. Sonic Wave is back up in 4 seconds. Can she actually get this out? The silence is not going to allow her to go for it. And Fran is now getting healed up too much. That would have been the moment right there, but the silence coming out from Fran allowed her to be able to get those heals coming in. And so close yet so far.
The cores have just gotten too big for iG.V. This is what we knew would happen eventually, and it wasn't just time. It was a couple of amazing fights coming out from iG.V. Really, I think the most critical one being when FTD.B went to focus the Death Prophet under the Tier 4 towers, where Fran was positioned as far back as possible, had his items and his spells already active before getting doomed, and was able to make that turn where they overcommitted, and they lost too much. Now we see the graph just dramatically falling back the other way, as 0 experience advantage, 0 gold advantage for FTD.B. In fact, experience is now nearly 10,000 back the other way.
Jeez.
It's just FTD.B had their chance. They had their window, and they weren't able to do enough with it. While the Gyrocopter was still relatively squishy, like right when he picks up the BKB, he's actually not that much stronger than he was. So I feel like prior to the BKB and the 10 minutes after the BKB was the best time for FTD.B, but clearly they haven't been able to follow through well enough. They haven't been able to finish off the enemy racks, not even a single one. It's not even like we're like 2 or 4 racks up. They have gotten not even a tier 3 tower, and now iG.V are on this return swing where they are bringing it back. The comeback is here. Invictus Gaming Vitality not 5 minutes away from victory at this rate.
Well, and you look at this as well. I mean, that's an even gold split at this point, with still 2 more tier 2 towers left to go. That they just end up taking one of them right there. I will say, in the favor of FTD.B and maybe some small semblance of a silver lining, they haven't found the initiations that they've wanted. They've always been taking fights that have been really, really bad for them. So possibly, if they can find that dream initiation, that pick off on the DP before this ends up happening, this one right here could be huge if they're able to find but they go the other direction. I'm not sure if the super is a big enough pickup at this point. And at this point in time, they're not even going to be able to bring him out. I think that he escapes. Oh, that was not what was meant to be. If they would have found right there, that would have been huge. But unfortunately, just out of vision range, and it did not end up working out.
And with that harder to harass pickup now on the Death Prophet, who needs an Aegis of the Immortal? You can do so much with this very first ultimate. You can do it with this very first life. You've got so much raw HP on this hero. 3,500 HP on Fran and 3,385 on They have built themselves up to withstand the pain and the pressure of FTD.B. Even if the support pickoff wasn't there, even if they were able to find the target they wanted, I'm still not sure they even get it. It's maybe a Venge swap that will just give you one support no matter the case. They have so many ways to survive through the oppression that FTD.B bring, and we're just not seeing enough done in the late game. And that's surprising because the Queen of Pain has so much to offer with this high intelligence pool. She has 170 intelligence. That means she's not just doing 555 times 2. It's about 11% more than that.
Oh my God.
And it's still not enough because in the end, iG.V have withstood the storm, and they are learning to walk through the rain, walk through the pain, and just they're going to be waltzing down the top lane in a minute.
Look at all these range creeps down here bottom too. They're trying to do whatever they can, make this happen with the Sonic Wave Scream of Pain follow-up, and it's pretty nice, but again, I really wonder about where it is that you find damage outside of this Quap. Right now you got the Viper, he's got the AC still, he hasn't really progressed an item since then, wants to make sure that he's going to be able to save for that buyback, but I really do feel like at some point you need to take a chance. You need to try and invest into something to double down on your potential, give you that little leg up. And maybe if you end up buying out at some point in time, you find yourself in a position where you're an item up on your opponent potentially. That's one way they could end up paying it. The Doom right now has an item slot open, 4,000 gold in the bank. What do you go to right now if you're the Doom? Is there anything that really solves at least one of the problems they have?
I think maybe you can look into something like a Refresher Orb. There aren't any Lotuses on the Dire side, so you would be able to get a very effective double Doom. It's not going to solve all your problems, but it's still going to allow you to really make that late game impact that you need to, because like you can look at Aghanim Scepter as an item pick up. The Doom used to always go until it got nerfed heavily, but now like you keep the Doom up permanently on the Death Prophet and the Gyro, unless that DP is outside of her fountain indefinitely and has not cast her ultimate, you're not really doing anything with that. You have to not only get your ultimate out, but you have to do the damage behind it. And normally you'd see Assault Cross here. Obviously, the Viper already picked that up. I feel like they're just running into this problem where they don't have a great solution. Like or the Refresher Orb is the best thing I've got, and even that might not be enough.
I really like the Axe pickup for the Batrider too. We've already seen the powerful effect that you have if you're going to be able to catch one of those heroes off guard, and with Lich Chain Frost as well, like the potential to pull somebody back in and just let that bounce between two people, that seems like such a cool interaction to be able to play with a little bit in this draft. And you know, I'm concerned at this point for the side of FTD.B. It does not feel like there is any one target that's easy to take down, and the ones that are at least somewhat easy to take down are staying well in the back of the fights.
Yeah, and I got to say that what we talked about a little bit in the draft, where they essentially have 3 heroes that play at least a 4 position in the game, is kind of making things difficult for FTD.B. The Enchantress is not a mid to late game force by any stretch. She is not the glass cannon that some Enchantresses can be. No matter item decisions, just the raw net worth of only 10.4k isn't really enough to fit the bill. Oh, and she might even be caught here. The Blink Dagger should be in range shortly. This could be a lasso. No. Looks like she'll be able to speed herself away. Just nice use of the Flame Break. Perfectly on the mark. Is actually going to be plenty for them to bring her down. And going back to it, she's just the support that can't do enough. And on top of that, the Earth Spirit can do almost nothing as well. He really doesn't have anything since that Veil. Like, this is not Aghanim's like, usually Aghanim's timing is like 45 minutes for a support Earth Spirit. Well, Ping has gotten so little in this game that you're seeing that he doesn't have half the item in a 55-minute game. It's just really unfortunate they aren't really able to make it work at this stage with their net worth and with their supports. They've taken all the outer towers. This should be a lot of gold for the supports, but because they're so greedy, they're so hungry for items, it just doesn't work. Put this in contrast to iG.V. Statistically, when you look at the net worth balance of iG.Vitality's lineup, Super and Dogfights actually don't even have the same amount of combined net worth compared to Like, just over 6.86 and over all the games played, takes more farm than the two supports combined, which is very rare, and it's showing that they highly prioritize the gyrocopter in this case. But the point that I'm making is that it's okay because the Venge of the Lich aren't dependent on their items too extensively. A good Chain Frost is a good Chain Frost. Doesn't matter if you have a Veil to back it up or an Axe to back it up. It's nice, it's flashy, but it's not as important as it is just to get your spells out the right way. So when Super and Dogfights show up to play with their spells, then they're able to do what they need to no matter their net worth, whereas Earth Spirit and Enchantress are highly limited in that capacity.
In July, gonna pull back Ran. He didn't get his Doom off. He's gonna end up dropping there. 75 seconds on the sidelines, and the chase continues. SSS trying to get controlled for the moment. They're going to be able to hold on to pretty high here, and that was actually going to be the refresher pop for DP. My goodness, too much coming out from them, and the chase is going to continue here. Looking for that Viper. They end up being able to get the Viper strike off for the moment. Over there in the mid lane, Pretty High is still being controlled. It looks like they are not going to be able to kill off anybody down here in the bottom lane. I don't think that Fran can file any further, but they do manage to get that Enchantress that's over there mid. So on a wicked 6 streak, and it looks like Tier 3s might be on the menu.
Yep, they're going to be looking to close this one out here. Tier 3s definitely going to be falling. The racks should be there after. It's going to take something miraculous for FTD.B here. They've got double Hex. They're going to have double Sonic Wave at least, maybe a third one if the Queen of Pain can play Do-Si-Do a little bit. But at the end of the day, breaking down this gyrocopter with a Satanic behind him, it almost seems impossible. They do have more range opportunities and more kiting opportunities since Dragonlance has been sold, but it still just doesn't seem to be enough. They'll poke down the Tier 3, drop the call down, and make sure these racks are going down.
Yeah, it just does so much damage. They burn through one of those. They have the second Sonic Wave that comes out, but it's just tickling them at this point. And then again, it harkens back. Like, you imagine it there if you had maybe a Lion or something else with a hard disable on the side of FTD.B. You could maybe hold that gyrocopter in place for a second. Maybe you're going to be able to make sure that he's not able to walk away, and then you get the full combo of the two Sonic Waves together, and maybe that's going to be enough. But it does definitely feel like at this point in time, anything that they throw at him is just nowhere near enough damage to contend with the tankiness of iG.V.
Yeah, and I mean, this point, it's only going to get worse. I mean, we're going to be looking at Gyrocopter being fully 6-slotted, 7-slotted as the next few minutes pass. We have 8,700 gold. He buys the Moonshard, and then he's going to eat it and pick up his BOT. So we are in 6-slot territory with the Aegis kind of taking one up, but I can't wait to see what comes next. I mean, at this point, is just so massively farmed. This guy, as a carry,
Doom onto In July. The swap back, fine for the moment. Dogfights might have to give his life here. Actually get Force Staff over to the other side, and now all of a sudden Pretty How's going to be controlled up there. They do have the Yule Scepter on the Queen of Pain. She's going to be able to blink away. In July is still doomed, but he's flying around, putting fire everywhere. They throw out the Sonic Wave. Dropping low, but not quite dead as of yet. Can the Chain Frost do enough? I think that is going to end up going down, but at this point, it's just the Aegis, and Ping is also going to end up dropping here. He tries to TP away to no avail. SSS controlled for the moment. It does look like they've got eyes on her still. Might go for a courier snipe at this point, because honestly, that's all you got left to do. The Urn charge is on her, and she does manage to get away, but eyes on the prize as they go towards mid.
Yeah, that would be a wild goose chase in all respects here, but just keeps blinking on a very short cooldown. Will be able to get out as the homing missile gets faster and faster, but it doesn't mean that she'll be able to do anything to hold her base. They were able to annihilate FTD.B and only lost the Aegis +1. Like they put everything they can into He doesn't get to use his Satanic, but he just replaced the Aegis with a cheese, and he's now as tanky as ever. This is the final hurrah for FTD.B here in Game 1. 60 minutes, 30 seconds. They didn't end it fast enough, and now iG.Vitality bring it back for the win. I honestly just cannot see a way back from this 4 racks deficit. If that was the best they bring to offer in the team fights, they just can't do it.
It's so hard because you look at that team fight there, you needed to be able to find something, and you would love to be able to think about the idea. Like, it's worth noting you're 6-slotted on the gyrocopter at this point. You don't get a whole lot bigger than this.
Apparently you haven't watched Havos play gyrocopter, man. How many rapiers can you go?
That's true enough. You can go for a couple more of those rapiers, and granted, you're still going to be able to get fairly freaking large. I guess my point there was that maybe you end up seeing a situation where a couple of these heroes pick up some more items. Possibly you get something more onto Viper, but at this point there's like no MKBs online. You've got the evasion onto the gyrocopter. Maybe it's Bloodthorn time for SSS. Like, what's the play here?
I think that if you're trying to take this even later than it already is, which of course is nearly a death sentence for FTD.B, but if that's their only game plan, then Bloodthorn is actually a legitimate item pickup, because after the BKB expires, just 5 seconds, then you can pop Bloodthorn, then you can nuke him down. Everybody's hitting him, everybody's critting him, and he's taking enhanced damage on top of that. So, of course, it's just going to be met with a Lotus Orb. It's just going to get dispelled, but you got to go for that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, you do not want to give up this game. It was within their reach about 30 minutes ago or something at this point.
Yeah, just look at the graph tells the whole story, man. Like, they were so close. They had nearly 15,000 net worth. They were on the cusp of breaking the high ground, but they just dove one time too many. They weren't able to have enough single target focus. And, well, I got to say that one thing that I didn't expect to play a role really did in the Lich ice armor. Not really for the heroes, but for the buildings.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can still nuke the heck out of heroes with magical and pure damage, but the buildings have to be right-click down, and that's something that FTD.B are already weak at, and the ice armor just makes it all the harder.
Yeah, that's something that I was kind of considering, and we were talking back about that draft earlier, and I really like the DP pickup. I still think that it's an integral part of a lot of drafts, and if you're missing some push, go for it. They didn't end up needing it as often for the push here, but it felt like it was maybe just for Fran to be able to jump on in there, secure Roshan. I do see the jump forward. Doom is down on top of her.
This could be good.
Does not have an exorcism. Sonic Wave hits there. Dogfights is low. They have the refresher, trying to find another one, but I'm not sure if it's quite going to be enough. The secondary Sonic Wave goes out. Fran is dropping low. She is going to end up dying here, and now you don't have the Lich. Oh, the buyback immediately. Wants to fight a little bit more, and there's the jump in July. It was all for naught. Oh my goodness gracious. They're going to continue the chase now, and now that they have the exorcism up, now that they don't have any more Sonic Waves, it's marching time.
And kids, that's why you have buyback against Doom. That's why you never, ever buy out against Doom unless you're about to get Ag's Necroscythe, I guess. But, like, you have to have buyback because in those situations, you can absolutely turn it. Whether you're a Spectre haunting back in or this late in the game, you've got BOTs level 2. Anywhere on the map you want to be, you're there in an instant. And Fran is back in the fight with both exorcisms flying. And now we've got Injuly looking for the final pounce.
Yeah, FTD.B are not going to give up. They are going to fight to their dying breath. The last Rax is going to go forward here. They're going to bring Pretty Ha back. Poor little Enchantress Bambi does end up dropping there, and it looks like with a final flourish, Ran is going to drop the GG. Game number 1 here in this series. iG.Vitality facing off against FTD.B. What are your thoughts moving into game number 2, Mr. Blaze?
I really do feel like FTD.B have to reinforce their early momentum and their early aggression with at least some degree of scalability. I thought maybe the Enchantress could make it work. Obviously, the Queen of Pain tried. SSS played his heart out here on the Queen of Pain, trying to do as much as physically possible in the mid to late game stage on such a hero. But at the end of the day, it is not his choice to make here. It is the Gyrocopter, the Death Prophet, even the Batrider being tremendous late-game forces that were extremely difficult to contest. I mean, we got to see really good momentum in the early game. They need to follow that up with somebody who can actually do something with those items. Well, I will critique that the supports were too greedy. Yeah. I feel like one of the cores should have been able to do more in terms of just raw physical damage. That's how you end games.
Yeah.
You were talking about Roche being an objective that was off the table for a long time because of the lack of physical damage, and of course we got to see how difficult it was for them to break the tier 3s. They had Aegis, they had everything they needed to keep a hero alive and hitting for a long, long time, but Viper versus Ice Armor, it's still a long haul. So iG.Vitality, an hour and 4 minutes for the first game here at the Manila Major Chinese qualifier, and we're in for a hell of a night.
Absolutely. We've got some more great Dota coming up pretty soon. It's going to be game number 2 between these two squads. Stick around, everybody, for more from China. See you guys in a bit.